Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash, Season 7, and this is going to be my trailer breakdown for Episode 10 for this season. Crazy, we're already into double digits, and this episode is called Family Matters Part 1. Yeah, so we're in a two-part storyline here, but yeah, let's watch the trailer, then we'll talk about some stuff after we finished it.
I'm a force of nature, and you two birthed me. That makes you what, my parents?
That is so cute.
The Speed Force is gonna come after me.
Not this time. We're gonna train you.
You gonna teach me to meditate?
I'm trying to teach her how to survive.
I don't want to do it.
She's not ready.
She's getting blue and angry.
I don't want to do this!
So yeah, last episode was the episode called Timeless, where pretty much they planted all the seeds really needed for this two-part storyline, which is going to be like the quote-unquote finale for this fourth storyline. So they've planted all the seeds, they've got all their ducks in a row, and really it's now just time to pull out your pellet gun and shoot those ducks down. Those rubber ducks, not real ducks. That's not YouTube. Don't censor me. We're not shooting real ducks, some rubber ducks. So they've lined them all up. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they're all knocked down and how everything's handled in these, final two episodes, which are, part 1 and part 2. So the whole thing's gonna be fairly interesting. But last episode, of course, we saw the Speed Force officially go evil, if you want to call it, or go rogue and go against Barry and threaten to kill all the other Force holders. Dion came in and gave Barry some stuff to think about. But the main thing is that Alexa, aka the Strength Force, is alive and well. Even though we weren't too sure if she'd actually died previously. But yeah, she's alive, and we know we saw Barry gonna delete them from ever getting the forces. However, Joe's inspirational words about not judging people in the present, but from what what they become, that's going to motivate Barry, and it's I think going to be the key to actually taking down the Speed Force, because there was no certainty that if Barry actually did all this stuff, that the Speed Force potentially wouldn't still be doing some bad stuff. So yeah, maybe following Joe's words will be the right move at the end. But before we get into the actual breakdown of the trailer, we will quickly go over the synopsis or description for this episode, as it does give us a bit more context as to some certain things that are happening. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know your various opinions, thoughts, theories, anything like that in the comment section down below. What are you looking forward to the most from this episode? I'm always curious to hear. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to this episode, want to drop a like on it, show support for the video and the channel. Iris is pushed to the limit as she seeks to uncover the mysterious truth about Psyche. Meanwhile, Barry initiates a new training system that could potentially backfire with devastating consequences. Joe and Cisco make life-altering decisions. So of course, this is going to be a big episode in regards to bringing the Force holders together by the looks of it, as I did set that up at the end of last episode. The biggest issue with that is just the current positions, I guess you could say, that we find some of the Force holders in, or the logistical issues with them. Of course, we do have Alexa, aka the Strength Force holder in Star Labs, so she is fine. There is some other stuff going on with her in this episode that was revealed in the trailer we watched earlier on the video, which is also hinted at in the synopsis for the episode, might I say, which we'll talk about in a second. But with Dion, aka the Still Force holder, he is currently in a sticky situation, I guess you could say, with the Speed Force. So it will be interesting to see where we pick up with him in general in this episode, as well as exactly what happens with him and how Barry, along with Iris and the rest of Team Flash, can potentially reach out to him and bring him into their group potentially. I think I just said potentially 3 times in the space of 5 seconds. I'm sorry about that. And of course, we then have Psyche, aka the Sage Force holder, who is easily the most, quote-unquote, evil of the Force holders, if we're going to call one of them evil. And it seems he will be the hardest to convince or bring into the group. But he is also the one person who we don't really know anything about as of yet. He's been wearing this mask the entire time. So will he remove the mask in this episode? Maybe. So we could possibly learn more about his character and who he really is at some point in this episode. Not saying we're going to get flashbacks of him. We could, but we just might learn what he was doing before this. We know stuff about Alexa. We know stuff about Dion. We know nothing about Psyche. We know his real name is Bashir, but because that's from the comics and they're doing that in the show as well. But we don't know anything about, what was he like before Psyche. We might learn about that and how that actually impacts what he does as Psyche. Now, we do start off the trailer with Alexa, or, Faweza, or, the Strength Force holder, in discussion with Team Flash, and in particular Barry and Iris, about her abilities, and it seems the origin of her powers. Now, one of the big complaints I saw from most people from last episode was the use of the term parents from Barry and Iris in regards to all the stuff that's going on. I can't remember which one of them said it first, but yeah, the term parents for them in regards to these new force holders being their children, it didn't hit people well. I think people just felt a bit weird. It was a bit weird. Like, I'm not sure why they didn't just call them like one big force family. I guess maybe there has to be parents in a family. I don't know, maybe call them the Force siblings. I don't know. Though they could still be a bit weird to some almost. It wouldn't be as weird as Barry and Iris calling themselves parents. Anyway, it didn't bother me that much, if at all. I just thought it could have been worded better. But it seems that terminology and referencing will still be used in this episode. At least by Alexa, at the very least, because she says it in this trailer for this upcoming episode. But let's wait and see. I just know that most people just seem to like sort of roll their eyes at the term parents, if not maybe cringe a bit. I guess it depends who you are. As I said, didn't really bother me too much. Just thought it could have been worded a bit better. But as we hear, Alexa is worried about the Speed Force coming after her and killing her, again. And I think we can all understand that. I mean, imagine if a serial killer was after you. Like, wouldn't be that fun, would it? Now, the thing they didn't make clear is whether the Speed Force gets the abilities of the Force in question when they kill the person who was the holder of it. So Alexa is alive again, but did the Speed Force have access to the Strength Force for that period of time? Or is it more of a scenario if she can get access to them that she has to kill all of the other forces in order to gain access to the powers and abilities all at once at the end? So it's all like a, collect them all and then you can use them all at the same time. So I don't know if we just didn't see her use the Strength Force, or she just didn't gain access to it, or if she was legitimately just trying to kill the Strength Force and she's just trying to kill the forces and there's no access of powers afterwards. I'm not too sure. I guess we will learn more about that possibly in this episode, but of course, as I said, we know Dion is in a bit of trouble, to say the least, and we do see a glimpse of him and his interaction with the Speed Force again in this trailer. But it will be interesting to see whether the Speed Force goes after Psyche again in this episode, or if Dion and maybe Alexa are the main focuses for the Speed Force in this episode. Maybe Psyche is like a cliffhanger. I don't know. Now, we do get to see Alexa training, or at least, Team Flash trying to train her and with her powers and stuff like that. As it's referenced in the synopsis for the episode, this is like the new training system that could potentially backfire. Obviously, the thing that could backfire is if like Faweza is let loose in Star Labs and isn't under the control of Alexa or something like that. It could cause quite a bit of damage. I think we can all imagine that. But I'm assuming that this training allows Alexa to control the Faweza side of her, or maybe this is a potential as well. I guess it would save money on visual effects as well. Maybe if she's under control, she doesn't grow into that monstrous being anymore. Maybe that's when she isn't in control and the powers go a bit crazy, because that is sort of like what happens in the comics. So maybe she can tap into the powers in her normal size. Now, I think that makes sense. I mean, it saves money on visual effects, and it's not that. I mean, we've seen it with Supergirl, for example, and Superman and Lois. So we've seen strong people, ridiculously strong people punch. They just put you on a wire and you fly away. So they could easily do that with Alexa / Faweza going forward for the next episode or two, and it wouldn't surprise me too much if they do that. Maybe right at the end she goes monstrous again. Maybe she needs to. Maybe she goes super monstrous if she needs to like unleash all her powers, but she still has a lot of strength and she can retain her normal size, and maybe this training will push towards that. I'm guessing that's what they're going to do, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, there is a quick moment in this trailer where we see the Psyche, but Psyche standing there and the Flash sort of slides in. As the synopsis does say, Iris will try to connect to Psyche and uncover his past. I'm not sure whether Team Citizen will be helping her out with that. It might be a bit too risky. But I guess maybe Iris would need Barry to fully break through to Psyche. Like with bringing Alexa back to life, they had to be together. So, and we saw Iris sort of get through to Psyche last episode, but Psyche could just go full power and then Iris couldn't do anything. So I'd assume she would need Barry there, or at least one of the other force holders, but I'd assume Barry at least. So yeah, and as we were talking before, it will be interesting to see if they do a Psyche backstory or any sort of like just background to the character, or if they just sort of get to his human side and takes off the mask and stuff like that. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, one of the big questions with this is, what is the cliffhanger for this episode? Because usually with a part 1 and part 2 or like a 2-part episode, you get a cliffhanger. The last 2-parter we got was The Blood Work. It was The Last Temptation of Barry Allen, part 1 and part 2. And if you remember, the cliffhanger for that episode was Barry becoming the negative or dark Flash. He looked like negative Flash from the comics, but I think they called him Dark Flash. So that was the cliffhanger for the last part 1 and part 2 we got. So I wonder what the cliffhanger could potentially be for this one. I would have to assume it'd have to be something with the Speed Force. You'd have to think it'd be villain orientated. You'd have to think that. So does the Speed Force actually get access to all the forces and they become like this all-powerful being? Like the Forever Force is the thing in the comics where it's like all the forces sort of you get access to them. So does she get access to like a version of the Forever Force on the show? Or is it something else? Is it something to do with the Psyche? Is it something to do with another character in... is it something to do with Barry, maybe? I would have to assume it's something to do with the Speed Force and something that's happened to her. Maybe she achieves her mission. But yeah, expect a cliffhanger just based off previous instances with like the part 1s and part 2s. You're usually going to get a pretty spicy cliffhanger. Now, unfortunately, there is no promo images for this episode. They've been releasing them much later than they usually do, like on a Saturday sometimes, if not a bit later than that. Sometimes a Sunday. It's pretty late sometimes that they release. I'm not too sure why. It's like the later you get in the season, they later release the later they release the promo images. So we don't have any of them to go over. If there are any of any interest, we'll do a video of them. Do a video on them over the weekend at some point. So keep your eyes out for that, I guess, if you're interested in that. But yeah. No promo images. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts, opinions, theories, what you're looking forward to in this episode. Let me know all that in the comment section down below. I'm always curious to read what you guys have to say. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Laters. Goodbye.